Alright guys, take a look at these moves in Palantir and SOFI. I mean, they're just crazy moves, basically straight up. So clearly it's time to start selling. I mean, smart money is starting to sell, YouTubers are starting to sell, the media is out there telling us to sell. So basically, it must be time to sell, right? I will give you my exact plan for both SOFI and Palantir because it is different, because they are in a different situation, and kind of walk you through my entire thought process and the strategy behind all this. I just ask in exchange for you to gently tap that like button and consider subscribing too. It's super easy to do if you like the truth without the hype. I know a lot of you guys out there, and of course my group too, and myself, we were gobbling up shares of Palantir in the $6 and $7 range, and SOFI in the $4 to $5 range for basically almost a year. I mean, it was just like buying season every single day, it seemed, for those two stocks over the past year. And now they have doubled up and tripled up respectively just at the beginning of this year, and you could have seen all those buys in real time if you'd been a member of my group and get my complete watch list with price targets. We got a stock analyzer tool. It's going to be completely free for members. Just so much, guys. Just check out the pinned comment down there and see if it's right for you. I may have left a little surprise for those of you that go check it out. But the point is, after you see a double up and a triple up in a stock that you own, the prudent thing to do is to actually, take profits, right? I mean, you hear that all the time, rebalance your portfolio, whatever the heck you want to call it. The point being, when you see those sorts of moves, it basically means that you should take profits per se, or take some money off the table, or whatever the case is. Well, there is a time, but for a long-term buy and hold investor, it's not what the YouTube says. It's not what the media says. It's not any of that. It's actually something different. So let's get down to that and figure that out first. Before I give you my plan with Palantir and SOFI, let's address one thing real quick right here, right now. If you are selling to raise more cash or because you need money to invest in something else, and that's purely the only reason why you're selling, you need to solve the money problem first. Now, I know that kind of goes against what a lot of people teach out there, but in regards to building wealth long-term, remember, I'm a long-term buy and hold investor, so over the course of 20 plus years, really, you got 40 years, basically from the time you're 20 till the time you retire at 60, depending upon what your timeline wants to be. That right there is the time to build up your income so that way you can continue to invest in those stocks long term. Otherwise, you're just basically trading to try to create profits in order to make investments. And that is just, you're basically a trader at that stage. You're not a long-term buy and hold investor. You're trying to trade your way to millions, which is extremely hard to do. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm not saying I don't have friends that aren't traders who do that exact same thing, but it is a very, very difficult game, if I could talk. And it's one of those things you have to acknowledge. You're no longer a buy and hold investor. You are a trader. And the only way to really get out of that is to solve the money problem, not just making more money, but taking care of your money as well, making sure you're paying off all those debts. House hack if you can house hack. Figure that piece out. We got courses on it in my group, but you don't need that. You can just Google it. Pop it right there into the YouTube search. There are a lot of ways to get those expenses down as well, so that way you have more money to invest. I mean, if you can just cut out your car payment, you can take all that money you were making on a car payment, use that right there to continually fund your investment account to continue to invest, and you multiply that out over 4 years, and that's how you build real wealth over the long term. So if you're selling just simply to have more cash to invest, right there, I would just kind of caution you and kind of say, hey, you need to solve the money problem, because that's really the problem. It's not the stock. It's not anything else that you're doing. It's the way you're handling your finances in the first place. So take a look there first. All right, so let's go over the 3 reasons why I personally would sell a stock. And we'll start with number 1, which is something fundamentally changed with the company. So basically what that means is something changed with the company, right? You had a change in leadership at the top. Maybe there was a change in, legislation that passed that's really, really going to impact the company. Maybe there's a new technology that came out that just completely makes their product obsolete. People are not going to get there. Maybe they have a small moat to begin with, and then that moat basically got destroyed, with whatever a competitor did or whatever the case is. But there is a fundamental change in the business itself. It can be a scandal, right? That right there can be a fundamental change in the stock, in the business itself. And so that right there, I would absolutely consider selling when you see a fundamental change in that business itself. Hey, it may be time to cut those losses and move on. So that right there is the first scenario where I would sell. Second would be that they get caught up in some sort of a hype run or some sort, kind of like the GameStop event that happened. And I hate it when that happens to stocks that I own. Sure, seeing those gains is awesome, but I don't want to pull 10 years worth of gains forward into right now, because then I'm basically forced to sell. I mean, think through any stock that you want. I mean, if Tesla went to, $2,000 tomorrow, that would be awesome, but I would 100% be selling because that is so significantly overvalued it's not even funny. And that's exactly what you saw with the GameStop and AMC and all those other movements like that. Those stocks, I don't know when in the future they'll ever, if they can ever justify those valuations that they were at whenever they were at those peaks. There's just no way to get there mathematically with the amount of with the profits and everything else that those companies have, or lack of profits that those companies have, lack of revenue growth and everything else. I don't know if they could ever actually get to those values again, and it happens all the time in the stock market. Just look at these two stocks right here. When Palantir was up over 40 bucks or around 40 bucks, and same thing, I think SOFI at its high was up over 20, those were significantly overvalued hype runs at the tippy top of a blow-off top of the longest bull run and the greatest bull run in the history of the stock market. I would have been selling if I would have owned those shares at cheaper prices and it ran up to that, because they were not worth that at all. Now, I had no idea they were dropping down into the ranges that they dropped down into, into the 4s, 5s, and 6s. I had no idea that was coming, but I absolutely knew that, almost $40 for one and up over 20 for another is significantly overvalued, especially 2 years ago where they were nowhere near the companies that they are today in terms of performance that they were back then. So anytime a stock gets caught up in a hype run like that, I hate it because it means I have to sell. I got to pay capital gains tax. I have all the other headaches that come along with selling. And more importantly, it means that it's pulling that money forward that I should have, been able to count on for years into the future there. So for me, in that particular scenario, when that happens, I'm absolutely going to sell the stock. And the final reason why I sell a stock is if I just flat out made a mistake, guys. And we all make them, please. Warren Buffett makes them. Every investor makes them. Anybody out there telling you they don't make mistakes, they're lying, number one, or they haven't been investing in any amount of time, but probably they're lying. So everybody makes them. And that could be something as simple as, hey, I just listened to a YouTuber. I bought into a hype run. Maybe you bought into a company that maybe somebody told you about, a friend at work, coworker. You did a little bit of due diligence, but not enough to really consider it due diligence. And now you've kind of looked at the stock, you've looked hard at it, you've really done your due diligence, and now you just kind of go, hey, I made a mistake, man. This just isn't the right stock for me. I need to, basically sell and put my money into a better stock for my plan, my portfolio, what I'm planning to do in my situation. So those make perfect sense for me to sell in that deal. And a mistake that I make is I buy outside of the sectors that I understand. Every once in a while, I get tempted with a medical stock or some other field that I have no expertise in. I don't understand it. I don't understand the businesses well enough to feel comfortable owning those stocks. But yet, it's just something will tempt me. Something will be out there, and inevitably I'll make that mistake. I'll buy that stock, and then I quickly realize when there's any sort of movement up or down, I don't understand a stock well enough to know, is this a hype run? Is this a sell-off where there's really a problem? Or is it a sell-off where I should add more and lower my cost basis because this is a great opportunity? I don't have the expertise to know that, and I've made that mistake before. So to me, when you make a mistake with a stock, regardless of what the mistake is and the reason behind it, at that stage, in a lot of cases, it's better to acknowledge that mistake, go ahead and sell it, and move on and move money into better stocks for you, your plan, your portfolio, what you're planning to do. All right, so let's start with Palantir first, and then we can kind of move on to SOFI after that, since they are kind of in different situations there, and I want to make sure I address them separately instead of kind of lumping them together, because there are things that are different. Now, Palantir is up almost 300% from those lows. I mean, it's just an incredible run. I don't know what else to call it, man. It's just been a great run up so far, and well-deserved in my opinion, because for me, it's just now getting up to that fair value mark that I had in terms of more on the aggressive side. It's right up there, right around fair value. So for me, whether the price goes up or down, it doesn't really matter. It's just now getting into that fair value range that I personally have for the stock. So in that particular scenario, kind of thinking through the three things we just talked about, there's no reason to sell that stock. How could it fall? Absolutely it could. But let's think through the right trade in the first place. The right trade for Palantir was to trade it at 10 bucks like a lot of people did. They got out of the stock because that's what the chart said. They said to get out there and it was going to go back down to 7 or 8 or whatever the heck the dollar amount was. And it didn't happen. It's continued this run on up. And for me, more importantly, I'm not a trader, so I don't freaking care. It doesn't matter. It's not caught up in a hype run. It's caught up in a great run, and it might be based on a lot of AI hype. I don't disagree with that. However, I can also say where I have the value at means it's just now approaching fair value. If you have fair value down around, 10 bucks, 12 bucks, $8, some of you guys have it out there at 4, whatever the case is, okay, then it may very well be overvalued and significantly overvalued to you, but that's why doing valuation is so important. And for me, even though, yes, this is some sort of a hyped up run of some sort, this is not $40, for a company that's 2 years away from profitability like it was back then. That to me is kind of what I define as a hype run. And if it happens to pull back, I'm going to happily add shares, especially if it gets under $15 a show, all day long, no problem. But everybody else that was trading the stock that made the right trade has been stuck chasing this stock all the way up, or they're completely out of it at all, and they may or may not see a price that they want to buy into again. So again, I'm not a trader. That sort of stuff doesn't matter to me. So for me right now, I see no point in selling the stock. I just need to be prepared if Wall Street gets silly, especially with earnings coming up. We'll cover that here shortly. I'll probably cover it either Thursday or Sunday, hopefully Thursday, try to get there. But the point being, with earnings coming up, that's a wild time. It could spike up huge. It could drop huge. Nobody knows. Stock's never more manipulated than around earnings. Everything is just crazy around earnings. So I don't want to make any decisions or any trades or anything else like that around earnings. I'm just going to wait and see what the numbers are. Does Palantir continue to perform? And then let's see how stupid Wall Street gets. And if they get dumb, it's an opportunity for myself to add. But I'm not going to try and guess what they're going to do at earnings. And I most certainly am not going to try to trade the stock, because as you've seen, the smart trade has gone wrong for traders basically this entire run up. And just not a game I'm going to play, especially as a long-term buy and hold investor. So for me, it's just a solid hold for now, and let's see if Wall Street gets dumb so I can add more, because I have a full position. I don't need any more shares, and if you guys need more shares, a little bit different there. Hey, you may want to look at doing a DCA, a modified DCA, some sort of a strategy like that to build out your position more if you want more shares. But in my spot, I don't need any more shares unless they go on a significant discount, and then at that stage, I'll happily add more shares of Palantir. So on to SOFI, and this one, honestly, it's different than Palantir is. I mean, they have been up basically double up here in just a very short time. And they just had an incredible earnings call. But for those of you guys that have been tracking SOFI for as long as I have, that's nothing new. They've been crushing earnings every single quarter, quarter after quarter after quarter. And I can honestly say there aren't too many companies that have been executing better than SOFI has, especially given the environment, especially given some of the challenges that they've had. Nobody has actually, or very, very few companies have executed as well as they have overall in regards to that, consistently quarter after quarter after quarter. So this earnings to me was nothing new. Not worried about it at all. They've had great earnings, but they've also had a great run in the stock. And this isn't like Palantir. They're not profitable like Palantir is. They're not looking at S&P inclusion right there, right now. They're a long way away from that. So the scenario in regards to having the big institutional support to support these runs is not there in SOFI like it is with Palantir. Palantir, whether they like it or not, whether they want it or not, they're going to have to start buying those large funds, those large institutional funds. So Palantir has that base starting to build in there. SOFI does not have that base yet, which absolutely means that it's still kind of traders controlling the stock. And you know exactly what traders like to do. They like to run it up and then beat it back down, rinse and repeat. But regardless of whether I think that's the most likely pattern or whether I think it's going to go down, do I think it's going to run more, doesn't matter. In the end, I need to go back to those three basic questions that we just talked about. Did I make a mistake with SOFI? And the answer for me is no. I think, I made a great decision as soon as this management team proved that they can turn around that business and change that business over, and the stock price was significantly beaten down. I made the right decision every single time with every single share that I bought. And so did many of you guys out there that were buying right alongside me or, on your own. I don't feel like it's a mistake at all to own the stock. I know exactly what I own. I know exactly where they are going. I am very, very comfortable with this company. So for me, it's not a mistake. So right there, all right, that's not a reason to sell. And did something fundamentally change with SOFI on this earnings? The answer to that question is no, nothing fundamentally changed with the business. The business is still humming along. Matter of fact, it actually got better. So the fundamental change would be it fundamentally got better, right? That is the only thing right there. So that's another positive right there. So again, one of the big three reasons why I would sell. I'm not looking to sell there because there's nothing that fundamentally changed to the downside. It was to the upside, which increases my conviction more in holding that stock and looking to add to that stock. And lastly, is it caught up in some sort of a GameStop style run? And to me, the answer to that is clearly no. Now, slow down. Don't blast me. I agree it is on a great run. Absolutely it is. It's absolutely overbought. It absolutely is due for a pullback of some sort. I won't disagree with that at all the way around. But for me, this is far from a giant hype run. I mean, just like Palantir got up over $10 and then all those people tried to trade it and everything else, I'm not playing that game with SOFI either, even if it does go back down. For me, I'm not trying to worry about, hey, SOFI's had this great run, let me get out, and then whenever it dips back down, I'm going to buy back in and, kind of rinse and repeat and play all those trading games. I'm not doing it. For me, I just simply stopped buying the stock as the run kind of got epic there. And then if Wall Street decides to beat it back down again, hey, I welcome it. I welcome Wall Street coming in, getting stupid, and beating down a great stock so I can add more to it. There was nothing in this earnings call that was negative. So if the market wants to call it all overbought and the traders who are still controlling the stock for now want to beat it back down, I'm absolutely going to be adding more SOFI shares as well. Now, if SOFI runs up to like $25 next month or something like that, I definitely would have something to consider thinking about right there. And, you know, obviously I'll make a whole separate video on that, discussing that. But for right now, you know, we're right around $10 or so. We are not on that sort of a hype run yet. So for me, there's no reason to sell any of these stocks. And remember, if you want to see all those buys in real time, see exactly what my price target is for all those stocks, and you want to take 5 courses for free, and you want access to that stock analyzer tool whenever it comes out for free, and you want to slide into my DMs anytime and be able to talk to me on our live Q&As, be able to hang out with the best 6 and 7 figure Discord out there, and a ton more. I release, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 videos a week there as well, in addition to what you guys see here on YouTube, and a ton more. Just make sure you check out the pinned comment down there, as I may have left something down there for you guys as a little special thank you. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market, and click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.